Selection 2, The Golden Lion Tamarin Comes Home, by George Ancona. Whistling softly as she scans the upper canopy of leaves, Andrea Martins leads her sister Carolina and brother Renato through the rainforest. It is hot and humid. The small group is surrounded by the teeming life of the tropical forest. Birds sing, insects buzz, cicadas chirp. Nearby they hear a tractor engine, cattle lowing, a rooster, and men at work on a fazenda, or farm. They pick their way carefully along the narrow path to avoid the sharp spines of leaves and the tangle of vines underfoot. Andrea raises her hand and the group stops. Above them the leaves rustle and branches sway as streaks of orange gold flash in the speckles of sunlight. "Micos," she whispers to the children, and points to the cluster of golden lion tamarins staring down at them from the branches of the trees. Their high-pitched whistles and squeaks pierce the air. Mico is short for Mico Leão Dourado, the Portuguese name for the golden lion tamarin of Brazil. About the size of a squirrel, the monkey is named for its color and lion-like mane. The golden lion tamarin is found only in the coastal rainforest of southeastern Brazil. Flanked by a mountain range on the west and the Atlantic Ocean on the east, the forest once stretched for 1,500 miles. When the first Europeans arrived, they cut down the trees to build their homes and towns. They burned the rest of the forest to clear the land for settlements, for coffee and sugar plantations, and for pastures on which to graze livestock. The city of Rio de Janeiro grew and spread. Today, only 2% of the original rainforest remains, scattered like small islands in a sea of farms and towns. As its native habitat disappeared, so did the golden lion tamarin. By 1960, there were so few left that Dr. A. Coimbra Filho, a Brazilian biologist, warned of its imminent extinction. He urged the Brazilian government to set aside the remaining forest as a wildlife refuge. The Poço das Antas Biological Reserve, a protected habitat, was established in 1973. The tall trees in the tropical rainforest offer the tamarins food, protection from predators, and a network of roots through their territories. The cupped centers of bromeliads, plants that live in host trees, hold water and insects for the monkeys to drink and eat. Tamarins are omnivorous. They eat not only fruits, seeds, and nuts, but also bird eggs, insects, frogs, and snakes, which provide additional protein. The rainforest is alive both day and night with a diversity of wildlife. Among the trees can be seen sloths and other species of monkeys. Tamarins must always be on guard for predators. Above them fly owls, while on the ground prowl ocelots, feral dogs, and, the most dangerous of all, humans. Poachers trap the tamarins and sell them in illegal animal markets for high prices. If discovered, these pets are confiscated and returned to the reserve. Today, golden lion tamarins are bred in many zoos around the world. These animals do not have the skills to survive in the wild on their own. A captive tamarin lives in a confined space, climbs sturdy poles that don't move, and is served its food in a bowl at regular hours by a familiar keeper. It has never leaped from a vine to a delicate tree branch that sways under its weight. It doesn't know how to forage for its food. It hasn't experienced weather changes, cold, rain, thunder, and lightning. It would be killed by predators or get lost and starve. It needs the help of humans and that of native-born tamarins to learn to survive independently in its original habitat. Since 1983, Dr. Benjamin Beck and his staff at the National Zoological Park in Washington, D.C., have been trying to find ways to prepare captive-born tamarins for their return to the rainforest. Dr. Beck coordinates the reintroduction of the tamarins into their natural habitat for the Golden Lion Tamarin Conservation Program. The tamarins being reintroduced often come from other zoos and are examined carefully when they arrive at the National Zoo. A different number is tattooed onto each animal's leg and entered into a record of all the tamarins born in captivity. As an experiment, tamarins are being permitted to live free in a wooded section of the zoo. Because they are territorial, they stay close to their nesting boxes, which are wired vertically high in the trees. The nesting box is a modified picnic cooler with 2 chambers inside, one above the other. In the top chamber is a hole through which the tamarins enter and leave. Should a predator attack, the tamarins huddle in the lower chamber, where a groping paw cannot reach them. A tamarin claims its territory by rubbing a scent from its body onto tree limbs. The ones that will someday be reintroduced into the wild wear radio collars that transmit a constant beep, enabling the keepers to locate them in the woods. The tamarins are fed by food trays raised to the height of their nesting boxes. Ropes are hung to simulate vines and to provide a network of treetop highways for the monkeys. The ropes and the nesting boxes are often changed while the tamarins are asleep to help prepare them for the unexpected. The dilemma for the zoo is how to protect the animals and still expose them to the experiences and dangers they will meet in the wild. Observers watch and record everything the monkeys do. To tell the tamarins apart, they mark the tails with hair dye. Each member of the tamarin family has its own distinctive tail marking. When the time is right, the monkeys are shipped by air from Washington, D.C. to Rio de Janeiro. Andrea Martins is one of the many people in Brazil and abroad working to save the golden lion tamarin. She coordinates a team of observers who roam the rainforest, tracking tamarins and observing their behavior. The team's notes are sent to the National Zoo, where scientists in the conservation program use them to help prepare captive-born tamarins for their reintroduction into the rainforest. In Rio de Janeiro, Andrea and Dionisio Moraes Pessimilio, director of the reserve, carry bags of fruit when they meet a shipment of 7 tamarins that arrives from Washington, D.C. After the overnight flight, the squealing monkeys are hungry, and they gobble up the pieces of fruit that Andrea and Dionisio squeeze into their cages. Then the noisy cages are loaded into a van for the 2-hour trip to the reserve. Golden lion tamarins tend to be monogamous, which means a male and female will live together and mate only with each other. This shipment includes a family of 4 from one zoo, the mother, the father, and a pair of 1-year-old twins, 1 male and 1 female. The other 3 tamarins come from 3 different zoos and will be used to create new families. Because there are so few tamarins left in the wild, they keep reproducing among themselves. Introducing animals that are born in distant zoos helps to strengthen the gene pool of the native tamarins. Genes carry the characteristics of a species from one generation to the next. The van and the observation team meet on a narrow road in the forest. The tamarins are unloaded and carried into the woods, where large cages await the immigrants. They are released into the cages, where they will grow accustomed to their new surroundings. Everything is different: the heat, the tall trees, the noises. The tamarins will get to know their potential prey, such as the insects and small reptiles and mammals that scoot in and out of their cages. Beyond the cages stalk their predators, which they must learn to avoid. The reserve is located a few kilometers from the town of Silva Jardim, where Andrea lives with her mother and 10 brothers and sisters. Every morning, Andrea and her sister Aleia, who is also an observer, cut up fruit and canned marmoset food. The canned food, which provides needed protein, is exactly what the tamarins ate in the zoo. The pieces of food are then stuffed into feeders made of plastic tubes wired together to make a square, with holes drilled along the tubes. Andrea crams bits of food into the holes. This encourages the tamarins to use their long fingers and nails to extract the food, just as they will probe in trees and rotted logs once they are released.